All right, well, it's raining, so I'm going to try to do this fast. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be putting a roll cage in this Cherokee. It's a hybrid cage, so it's an XO cage and an internal. It's something that I should have put on this Jeep a long time ago, but I've never done it before. We're going to learn through the process, figure it out. Can't be that hard. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. All right, if you're new to the channel, this is my 98 Cherokee. It's got everything. It's got full frame stiffeners, front to rear. The axles have been re-geared to 488s, lockers front and rear, hydro assist. It's got long arms. It's got a nice tire carrier, this, that, and the third. But the thing it does not have is a roll cage, and that's something I wish I would have had when I flipped it up in the Sierras a couple weeks ago. I was able to save the Jeep for the most part. It's got, well, it looks like a raisin pretty much, a white raisin. However, it's still usable, and I was able to get most of the damage out. If you look at the last few videos, you'll be surprised of what it used to look like. After having that accident, I realized I really need to have some more safety if I'm going to be four-wheeling this thing and driving it to the trails and back. So that's why we're going to be putting this hybrid cage in today. And this video wouldn't be possible without the help from XO-Fab. XO-Fab is a fabrication company up in Washington State, and they design and build the cages for these XJs. It's a hybrid cage. I'm going to be showing you that in just a second. But I just want to say thank you. Check them out online, XOFab.com. So I figured I'd show you the actual website. This is what we're going to be installing today. This is their hybrid cage. That's kind of a look on the outside. You get that awesome look, all that steel. And it comes down through the fenders. We're going to have to cut up the fenders and mount them to the rock sliders in the front. The B pillars come down through the roof and are welded to the floor, as well as the C pillars, same thing, through the roof, welded to the floor. The cool thing about this cage is it is DOM tubing, which is a lot stronger than regular steel, and it's already bent and notched. So it takes a lot of the work out for us when we go ahead and put it together. And it's made in USA. So there you go. Pretty sweet. All right, here's what you're going to get when you get the cage. A whole bunch of tube. They did a good job packing this thing up. Let's open it up and see what we got. Okay, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't a little intimidating. There's a lot of pieces here. But one thing that's pretty cool about it is everything's labeled. So this is like a halo extension. This is going to be your whole halo part that goes around the top. Everything has clear marking on what it is. So that should help us out a lot. So before I even get started putting that awesome cage in, the first thing I'm going to do is address some things on this roof. So it's rusting out up here, and I'm going to repaint this all. I'm going to put some just Rust-Oleum paint on the top and try to get that to stop rusting. You might be wondering what this is up here. This Jeep used to have a sunroof at one point. The last owner welded in like some random piece of steel, but you can just see daylight right through it. So there's a couple holes that I got to patch up top. I already tried to flex seal it once. I got something similar, but just, you know, Band-Aid fixes. The next thing is this visor's got to come off. I know it's sad. I love the look of this visor. It's a Lund visor. It's quality, and it's going to be up for sale. By the time you watch this video, I'm sure it'll be sold. I'm sorry. The windshield is shattered, and it's been shattered. So I have a new one that I'm going to throw in. I'm going to do all that stuff, and then we're going to start on the cage. All right, I'm going to try to paint this roof real quick. Don't expect anything too good. I just want to stop this chipping, really. If I can just get a layer of paint on top of this to stop it from chipping more, that's really all I need. The roof has been sufficiently rattle canned, flex sealed, sealed off for the most part, which means we can get started on the next thing, which is going to be this windshield. Let's get this replaced real quick because this thing is junk. All right. Nice.
It looks cooler without it.
Without the windshield?
Yeah.
Just leave it off?
Yeah, we should take it for a drive without it. Is that illegal? Like, they can't.
You gotta put goggles on.
Corners. Safe light repair, safe light repair.
Alright, so to start the whole cage, we're gonna do the whole halo first, which is the piece that sits on top of the Jeep on the outside. And you get these two pieces that are bent and pre-bent. You want to attach them together. And the way we do that is something called a sleeve. This is one of them right here. There's one inside right now. Basically, it's just a piece of tubing that sits on the inside and connects these two pieces. I drilled a little spot weld here to hold it in place while I hammered this piece on. And now what we're going to do is do the same thing, a little spot weld, and then weld this whole piece on the outside, making sure both sides are even too. Okay. So what I should have done before I put these all together, but now you can learn, is I should have beveled all these, because when I go to weld it, there's going to be a lot of weld just sitting on top. If you bevel it, it gets the weld deeper in the root. Just something to think about when you do it. So right now I'm just taking all of the pieces that are going to go in this halo, this top part, and I'm just getting them in place. I'm not even welding them in. They sit really nicely, like all the coping on this tubing. Very, very good fit. I'm very impressed with it so far. So I'm going to put all the little pieces in here, and then once I get it all fit, we'll tack weld it in place and go from there. Woo! Coming along, we just put these two pieces in. It kind of goes like that and there. The other one just fell off, but I'm going to tack these in real quick. Yeah. Here is the halo all tack welded together, and it looks like everything fit together really well. The spacing is perfect for welds. Really happy with how this kit is coming together so far. I'm gonna finish weld all of this, the cage right now, and then we're gonna move on and cut the holes in the roof for the pass-throughs on these pillars. That's his first time MIG welding right there, and I'm teaching him on the roll cage. He's not doing bad though. Look at that form. This whole thing is welded up, top to bottom. I'm just gonna take a grinder and flatten out these sections here. Got the 3 sections where the pipes went together. I'm gonna clean those up, and then we're gonna set this whole thing aside and get to cutting up the Jeep. So from the back of the Jeep, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our tape measure and we're gonna measure 18.5 inches from the start of the roof line here forward. That's right about there. You're gonna measure here 2.25 inches in. So 18.5, 2.25 in, and this is gonna be the spot for our C-pillar. This is the one that's gonna come. We're gonna cut 1 3/4 hole. We're gonna have a pole that's attached to the floor. I'll show you that in a second. And it's gonna come right through here on both sides, same spot. Per the instructions, the next hole.
Stop blowing holes in my shit!
So we got our 2 in the back, both sides. The next one's gonna be 52 3/4. And that's gonna be where we're gonna drill for the B pillar. I got both of those mounted out. Now we just gotta drill it. Surprisingly easy. All right, here's the first C-pillar in where it's supposed to be. I'm just gonna put the rest of them in, and then we'll put the roof halo on it and see how it's sitting, and then decide if we wanna lower it or not. Because right now it looks pretty high up off the cage, but I can't tell until I put the whole thing up there. Easy. All right, I've got the cage where I want it to be in terms of relationship of the height of it and also where it is side to side, back and forth. So what we're gonna do now is these pipes that are sitting against the roll cage, we're gonna mount them to the floor here and then weld the pipes to these plates themselves. Once I get these front 2 put in place where they should be, Then we're gonna move on to the back and do the same thing back here. All right, here's where the back plates sit. Got it all ground down and cleaned up so I can weld those on. Both of them, they pretty much go right down on top of where the frame is, so it should be pretty strong there. And there's the holes for the roof. So let's get these welded up real quick. Well, alrighty, these plates are in, and I somehow didn't burn down the Jeep. The welds are not the nicest going into this thin sheet metal. It's kind of hard to weld through without poking through. But yeah, I'm hoping that this is strong enough to hold the weight of the cage. I guess it kind of diverts the force, but I don't know. Somebody with an engineering degree probably put this together, not me. We got the cage in the right place. It's centered up. Here you'll see there's a pretty good gap here, but that's just because I didn't get the roof all the way to the original height when I fixed the Jeep from when it flipped. We got all the bars where they need to be in place. I tried to move these plates back as far as possible because I'm going to be putting my shocks through here. That's going to be a different video though. Now I'm going to weld these in, and then we'll be able to move on to the front A-pillars. I'm not going to weld this halo on yet. That's going to come off so we can paint it. All right, so there's this C-pillar piece right here, and this basically just notches right in place there. Welded in, a little extra support, so I'm going to zap that in right now. All right, now that I got the pillars tack welded in, I'm going to pull off the fenders so that we can get to mounting these A-pillar pieces. It's basically going to go right down here, boop, through the fender. I'm going to have to cut these up and mount it to the rock slider, which those will probably have to be extended. It's going to be a whole shit show. So let me pull these fenders off real quick. So I just figured out that to pull these fenders off, you have to pull this header panel off. I changed out the passenger fender once a long time ago, and I completely forgot that, yeah, you have to pull this header panel off. So I'm going to have to pull the whole front bumper, which sucks because this thing's super heavy and the winch is in the way. And then I'll be able to pull the header panel, and then I can pull both of the fenders. The fenders are off of the Jeep, so that does look kind of cool, doesn't it? Kind of like a... Anyway, these are the A-pillars, and what they're basically going to do is they're going to go, get mounted to the roof here, and then down to the rock slider. And obviously they're going to need to be trimmed and fit and all that stuff. I got to figure that out, but that's a job for tomorrow. I think I'm done for the night. All right, it is the next morning. Yesterday we worked on this for probably about 9 hours from like noon to 9 o'clock at night. But we're on the final stretch here, not too much left. Let me show you what I got. So when we left off, we were getting the A-pillars mounted, and they're going to be mounting onto the rock slider. But this rock slider stops here. We have to extend it to about here. We're going to cut right where this turn is, and it'll extend it out to about here. And then the A-pillar will be able to mount right on that pedestal kind of thing. So I got this junk steel that I have just laying around. It's 2x3, same as the rock sliders. I think this might be 1/4 inch and that one's 3/16. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to cut this and cut the front of that rock slider and then weld them together. These are the A-pillar mounts, and I've got the pedestals pretty much welded in. I did like 2 of the sides. I still got to finish welding them, but these basically go right here. They're going to sit on that pedestal and get welded in place right up here. And then we're going to have to cut the fenders to fit these bars and still be able to run the fender. But what I'm going to do now is we're going to pull off the top halo here. I'm going to mark the places that I don't want to paint, and I'm going to spray paint the underneath of it so that we can get to it. Once that's dried, we'll put it back on, weld everything together so it'll be stuck in place, and then paint it and be going on our happy merry way here. Watch the garage door. All right, so we got the halo out here upside down, and I just wiped it down with acetone, get all that oil and grease off this metal before we paint it. And I'm going to be using this stuff. This is just like a semi-gloss kind of satin look and black spray paint. It's just because I would paint it while it's on the Jeep, but you can't really get to the underside, obviously, while it's on there. So I got all the spots that I don't want painted, taped off. That's where we're going to weld it to the actual Jeep. That's the supports. So it should be good just to blast it with some spray paint. Here is the A-pillar where it wants to be. Sitting there on the slider, goes up and comes right up to the cage. I'm trying to get both sides to have equal gap here, and I don't know if it's just because the frame is tweaked or what have you, but this side is a little bit too close on the bottom. So I might have to use some spacers or maybe bend this piece a little bit more to get it to fit better and more flush on both sides. Like that gap is a little too small compared to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to tack this in place here and start tacking the cage in place. Yeah, I guess that's it. It's coming together. The A-pillars are mounted. So now all I gotta do is just final weld everything. All these connection points that aren't finished, gotta just zap them up. It's gonna be pretty tough to get in there. I don't know how I'm gonna weld that. Yeah, that's pretty tight in there, but we'll try our best here. And this thing is nice and sturdy now, doesn't move around. Whew. It actually looks pretty cool without the fenders, but I don't know. Also kind of ratchet. All right, I just put sealant on all these pass-throughs so that water doesn't leak through. While that's drying, I'm gonna try to figure out how to mount these fenders. I have to cut them to fit back on. So, holy shit. So this is what we got here. And that's just like a rough drawing that I just did. I don't know, I'm gonna try to mess around with it. The big thing is if you cut too much off, it's gonna look like shit, and you can't go back. So it's really a one-time thing. Just cut a little bit at a time and see what works. That probably took 20 minutes, but it came out really good. It fits nice and snug. The gap, once I push it in, is pretty much what it was before. And I didn't cut too much. It was a little bit wide here, but I'm pretty happy with how that came out, actually. Man, that thing looks good, too. Oof. Okay, gotta do the passenger side, too. All right, I'm gonna throw some paint on this thing. I like to use Rust-Oleum. It's a satin black, and when you brush it on, it goes a lot thicker, opposed to spray painting it. So I'm just gonna throw some tape on it and get it ready for paint and throw a couple coats on. First coat is on. I'm gonna have to use spray paint to get into some of like the tighter areas there, but I'm planning on doing 2 coats here and some spray paint to get the tight spots, and then she'll be all set. It looks awesome so far. Look at that. Ooh, it's gonna look great. Here she is. And I am so happy with how this came out. From what this Jeep was, this thing was smashed and totaled. I really thought I was just gonna be taken into the junkyard. This Jeep has come such a long way, and it still has a lot to go. I'm putting a lot more into this. Let me just go over some of the things about this cage, that tips or tricks, things I would do differently next time, and advice for you if you're gonna do this on your own Jeep. So the first thing's gonna be this paint. I did a really crappy job painting this thing. I'm not even gonna lie about it. I brushed it on. I thought that'd come out kind of decent, but it really didn't. If you look up close, from far it's fine. If you look up close, there's a couple runs on it, and it's really not the nicest finish. I recommend not starting with a crumpled up Jeep. However, it did work good, and everything went together very easily, so I can't complain too much about that. All right, here's a little bit bigger of an oops. I think that after looking at some pictures and stuff, I think that this crossbar here is supposed to go higher up. So this side is supposed to be closer to the roof, and it's supposed to go more in like the crux here where it bends out. So I'm sure that compromises the structure a little bit here. And I might find myself adding another bar to make this like an X. So just something I saw afterwards that can't really change now because it's welded in there, and it would be a huge pain in the ass to undo it. Another thing that's more of a personal preference, these base plates that go onto the frame, they're good here. However, they do not technically tie into the frame. So what I'm going to do is build a plate that comes off of the unibody. You know, Cherokee doesn't actually have a frame technically. So I'm going to build a plate that comes off the unibody and sandwiches up there eventually. So I actually did end up reinforcing this. I took a 3/16 plate, put it under the C-pillars, and then welded to the unibody as you see in the picture here. It adds a little bit more strength, so I don't know. I recommend it. But like I said, these are all really small things, and all of them are my fault. This has nothing to do with the cage itself. Having all the pieces pre-bent and coped and ready to be fit up, I mean, it just made the job so much easier. So huge shout out for that, XO-Fab. Good job. If you're thinking about doing the cage, I say just do it. If you have the skills or you want to learn, it's the perfect thing to learn on. Don't wait like I did and get yourself into a rollover and then want one after the fact. That's the dumb way to do it. Highly recommend this kit. Highly recommend XO-Fab. I'll put a link in the description below. And until next time, thank you for watching. I hope I can get you to subscribe, and see you around. Oh, and I got a bunch of awesome stuff coming for this Cherokee. We're putting a bunch of fancy parts on it that an XJ usually does not have. Stuff I'm really stoked for. We're getting it ready for King of the Hammers in February. So if you're interested in that, subscribe. Why haven't you already? See you on the next one. Thanks.